Okay, what if I told you that the single most important number for building wealth isn't your income? Nope. And it's not your net worth either. It's a metric that honestly, most people completely ignore. But getting this one thing right, it can fundamentally change your entire financial future. We're going to dive into what's called the gap strategy. This quote, it just hits home, doesn't it? It tells a story we've all seen play out. Someone who looks wealthy, making plenty of money, driving the nice car, but they're one unexpected bill away from a total crisis. Their problem isn't a lack of income, it's a lack of a gap.
And this leads us right to the heart of the problem, what I call the high-income illusion. We're all taught to believe that a bigger paycheck is the silver bullet that will solve all our financial problems. But as we're about to see, that's almost never the case.
So what is really going on here? How can people earning six figures, people in the top 20% of all incomes, still feel like they're completely trapped, just spinning their wheels? Well, the answer is this powerful, invisible principle that works against all of us if we're not paying attention.
It's a financial version of something called Parkinson's Law, and it basically says this: your expenses will always rise to meet your income. It's like financial gravity. You can't escape it. You get a raise, and suddenly that slightly bigger apartment seems necessary. A bonus comes in, and that new car lease you've been eyeing feels totally justified. It's a treadmill that just keeps you running in place, no matter how much faster you run. And the proof is in the numbers. I mean, get this. A recent report found that a staggering 52% of Americans earning over $100,000 are living paycheck to paycheck. And another survey, it showed that 36% of folks making over $200,000 a year feel the exact same way. So let's be clear, this is not a low-income issue. It is a universal problem. So if earning more money isn't the answer, then what is? Well, there's one number, just one, that can help you get off that financial treadmill for good. And I like to think of it as your own personal profit margin. And that number is the gap. It's so simple. It's just the space between what you earn and what you spend. It's the money left over after all your bills are paid. And listen, this isn't just savings. This is the raw material for building actual wealth. In fact, it's the only money you have that can truly go to work for you.
So let's just look at this. Who is actually getting wealthier here? Is it the person earning a cool $200,000, but with a $0 gap? Or is it the person earning a quarter of that, but who actually has a $10,000 gap to invest and build with? It's a no-brainer. The size of your income is completely irrelevant if your gap is zero.
Yeah, without a gap, you're not building wealth. You're just churning huge amounts of money for banks, for landlords, for car companies. You aren't accumulating wealth for yourself. You're just passing it through your hands on its way to someone else. Okay, so this all makes sense. How do we actually build? And more importantly, widen this gap? Look, this is not about deprivation or living on ramen. It's about strategy. There are two main levers you can pull. And believe me, most people focus all their energy on the wrong one. The first lever is defense. This is all about controlling your expenses. And no, I'm not going to sit here and tell you to skip your daily latte. That's a total distraction. Real defense means focusing on the big-ticket items that are actually moving the needle on your budget.
We're talking about the big three: housing, transportation, and food. The key here is to just cap these costs. You make a decision that even if your income doubles, your rent or your mortgage payment stays the same. You decide to keep your car for 10 years instead of swapping it out every 3. You cook a few more meals at home. Controlling just these 3 expenses creates this powerful floor that prevents your gap from ever shrinking.
But look, defense is only half the battle. The real power, the move that truly accelerates your wealth building, comes from playing offense. This means focusing on your income, yeah, but with a really, really important twist.
And here it is. It's called the invisible raise strategy. The rule is dead simple. When new money comes in, a raise, a bonus, a new side hustle, 100% of that new money goes directly to widening your gap. It never even touches your checking account. You just keep living on your old income, and suddenly your ability to build wealth expands dramatically. Let's look at a super clear example of how this works. On the left, the typical path. A big raise leads to only a tiny increase in the gap because of that lifestyle creep. But on the right, with the gap strategy, that same exact raise nearly triples their wealth-building power. Their gap explodes from $6,000 to $16,000. Their day-to-day quality of life hasn't changed one bit, but their financial future, it just took a massive turn for the better. Now, the biggest threat to this whole strategy is something I call the reward fallacy. It's that little voice in your head that says, hey,
You've worked so hard, you deserve this. But that one splurge doesn't just cost you money, it does something way more dangerous. It resets your spending baseline, making it even harder to stay disciplined down the road. And that discipline, it leads to the ultimate prize. Because the real purpose of widening your gap isn't just to stack up more money in an account. It's about buying something far, far more valuable.
See, your gap is meant to be deployed. You put it to work in assets, things like index funds or real estate that generate their own returns. And this creates a beautiful feedback loop. Your gap buys assets, those assets generate income, and that new income widens your gap even further, which lets you buy even more assets. Your wealth machine becomes self-sustaining.
This is how you get to your freedom number. This is the amount of money you need invested to be financially independent forever. And here's the critical part. It is based entirely on your annual spending. The less you spend, the smaller your target number is, and the faster your gap can get you there. So who gets to financial freedom first? The doctor with the tiny gap who's chasing a massive $7 million target, or the teacher who has a huge gap, nearly 50% of their take-home pay, and is chasing a much, much smaller goal? The answer is almost always the teacher. A wide gap is a much faster path to freedom than a high income.
Ultimately, every single dollar you add to your gap isn't just buying future financial security. It's buying back your time. It's buying your autonomy. It's buying your freedom to choose how you spend your precious days on this planet, instead of being forced to trade your time for a paycheck.
So, how do we take all of this from theory and turn it into action? I want to leave you with a simple, really powerful challenge that you can literally start today. All right, here's your homework. First, do the math. Calculate your gap from last month and write it down. Be brutally honest with yourself. Is that number okay with you? Then, pick just one lever, either offense or defense, earning more or spending less, and focus on just that one for the next 90 days. Don't try to do everything at once. Just pick one, attack it, and see what happens to that number.
At the end of the day, it all comes down to this. Every single dollar you spend is a choice, and every dollar that stays in your gap is like a soldier that you're deploying in the fight for your own freedom. So the question is, whose army are you building?